Malaki ang posibilidad na magbaha sa pataas na lugar. Kinakailangan ng posibleng pagtigas. Red rainfall warning. Napakalakas na pagbilang ang mararanasan sa 36 oras hanggang sa susunod na 2 oras. Ang mga nakatira sa mababang lugar ay dapat nagulitas. Dapat nakabonto sa kanila kung lalakas pa ang ulan sa mga susunod na oras. Ito ang ilang paalala mula sa UNTV, your public service channel. Kung maliit ang panahon, inaasahan na rin na tumakas ang konsumo ng kuryente. Dahil extra effort ang cooling system ng appliances, mas malaki ang kailangan nitong supply ng kuryente. Ito ay ang tips para makatipid sa konsumo ng kuryente. Linisin ang appliances tulad ng electric fan o air conditioning units para hindi mahirapan ang makina nito at hindi malaki ang electricity consumption. Isarado ang mga dilaw kung hindi naman kailangan. Mag-unplug ng appliances kung hindi naman ginagamit. Iwasan na matagal na nakabukas ang pintuan ng refrigerator at siguraduhin na nakalapat dito mabuti kapag nakalapat. Ito ang ilang tips para makatipid sa kuryente mula sa UNTV, your public service channel. UNTV, News and Rescue. Sa Pilipinas at sa buong mundo, ito ang balita ngayon.
Hamas at Israel nagsisisihan kasunod ng pagsabog sa ospital sa Gaza na isinasawid ng nasa 500 tao.
Market Investment Fund pinatigil muna ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Inilagak na si Kapitan ng Land Bank of the Philippines at Development Bank of the Philippines dapat munang ibalik ayon sa isang senador.
Bigay ng extrajudicial confession yung dalawa doon sa apat na hawak natin, assisted by legal counsel of their own choice, and pinagderma nila na talagang nagkaroon ng initiation right.
Dalawa sa mga suspect sa pagkamatay ni Aldrin Derry Chua Grabante umaming kasama sa initiation right. 6 na pong palo sa katawan, tinamo ng biktima.
Una sa ating mga balita, ipinatigil muna ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang mga implementasyon ng Maharlika Investment Fund. Base sa Memorandum Circular na inilabas sa Malacanang, ipinag-utos muna ng Pangulo na muling pag-aralan ang implementing rules and regulations ng MIF Law. Ito ang balita ni Nel Marcojo.
Nais makatiyak ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na maipapatupad ng maayos ang tunay na layunin ng pagtatatag ng Maharlika Investment Fund. Kaya inatasan niya ang Bureau of Treasury pati ng Land Bank of the Philippines at Development Bank of the Philippines na suspindihin muna ang pagpapatupad nito.
Kasabay nito ay pinag-utos rin ng Pangulo sa mga ito na pag-aralan muna ang implementing rules and regulations o IRR ng kauna-unang Sovereign Wealth Fund ng bansa.
Nais ni Pangulong Marcos na pag-aralan munang mabuti ang IRR para matiyak na makukuha ang layunin ng pondo na para sa pagpapaunlad ng bansa, kung saan naman nakalatag ang safeguards para dito para sa transparency at accountability. Sa ilalim ng batas, ang inisyal na kapital ng MIF na nagkakahalaga ng 125 billion pesos ay kukunin mula sa Land Bank, DBP at National Government. Ang sigma na ito ay lalaan sa iba't ibang investments. Sa kabila ng suspension sa implementasyon ng Maharlika Investment Fund Law, handa pa rin ang Office of the Solicitor General na idepensa sa Korte Suprema ang isang mensahe, sinabi ni Solicitor General Menato Guevara na nasa mga petitioner na pagpapasya kung papawiin ng mga ito ang kanilang petisyon matapos na suspindihin ng Pangulong MIF law. Pero kung hindi niya ito papawiin, ay itutuloy pa rin ng Supreme Court ang pagdinig at nakahandaan niya ang mga abogado ng gobyerno na ipipensa ang legalidad ng MIF. Dahil barito ko, UFTV News and Rescue, Diyos ang aming sandigan, serbisyo publiko ang aming pinahalagaan.
Welcome para sa ilang senador ang desisyon ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. na suspindihin muna ang implementasyon ng panuntunan ng Maharlika Investment Fund Law. Pero para sa isang mambabatas, mas mabuting bawiin na muna ang inilakap na pondo ng dalawang bangko ng gobyerno sa kapital ng buong korporasyon. Ito ang balita ni Mardin Delgado.
But maraming patunay yun na yung isang batas ng Kongreso ay kulang pa sa pag-aaral. At nagpapasalamat ako kay Pangulong Marcos na nakita niya at mga butas o pangangaklan na kailangan ayusin at ayusin ay mahabol at ayusin pa.
Sa ayon ng ilang senador sa pagpapatigil ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa implementasyon ng kontrobersyal na Maharlika Investment Fund o MIF law, para kay Senator Francis Cheese Escudero, nagpapakita lamang ito na talagang kulang pa sa pag-aaral ang batas. Ngunit para sa mga batas, dapat munang bawiin ang inilalap na 75 billion pesos na paunang kapital mula sa Land Bank of the Philippines at Development Bank of the Philippines o DBP sa MIF.
Tatanong ko kumikita pa ng interest dapat isinantabilan nila within their funds yung dapat ibigay o earmark lang ang ibigay sa Maharlika Investment Corporation. Ba't nila ginawa yun ang hihirang CEO, mga members na board at niwala pa ng IRR. Masyado naman yata sila nagmamadali yung ginawa at pinagpasya nila yun.
Pero para kay Senator Sherman, masyado pang makakita para bawiin ang seed capital ng Land Bank at DBP sa MIF. Pwede naman ang ipagpaliban nila ang paglalagay ng pondo kung talaga makikita may problema rito. Ang mahalaga ay ang mapag-aralan kung ang apekto sa stability o katatagan ng dalawang bangko ang diniposito nito sa MIF.
Sabihan pa kung inisin ng regulatory may problema silang makikita at dapat mapag-aralan mo po ito dahil itong dalawang bangko, napakalaking bangko ito at kung mayroong magkaroon ng problema baka maka-apekto ito sa buong bangko.
Bago mag-playtime,
Nabaguhan ko.
pasok na ay siksik sa vitamin C.
Is when yan. Nabaguhan ko. Di ko man ha. Ano na yan sa turn on?
Israel, the world's only Jewish state, located east of the Mediterranean Sea, and Palestine, the territory of the Arab population that hails from the Israel-controlled land, have long been known for their enduring conflict with the Israeli occupation of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip. The tension between Israel and Palestine has been deteriorating in years, climaxing with many violent clashes between the two sides. To understand the roots of the Israel-Palestine conflict, we have to look back a few thousand years ago. Early history of Israeli-Palestinian conflict. In the 17th century BC, following the call of God, three patriarchs of the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, settled in Canaan, a region approximating present-day Israel, the West Bank, and the Gaza Strip, parts of Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. The region later had the name the Land of Israel, the Promised Land, the Palestine region, or the Holy Land. In 1000 BC, King Saul established the Israelite monarchy, which then was ruled by King David, who made Jerusalem the capital of his kingdom, and his son King Solomon, who built the first temple in Jerusalem. After the death of King Solomon, the united monarchy was split into the Kingdom of Israel in the north, with Samaria as the capital, and the Kingdom of Judah in the south, with Jerusalem as the capital. The land became home to a majority of Jews, but then it was subject to numerous conquests of various groups, leading to the significant decrease of the Jewish population on the land. One of these conquests was conducted by the Roman Empire, who gave the name Palestine to Judah, intending to break the Jewish connection with the land of Israel. During this time, Christianity, which started as a Jewish sect, ultimately became a dominant religion toward the end of the Roman Empire. In the 7th century came an Arab conquest, beginning the spread of Islam. The Dome of the Rock was built on the ruin of the Second Temple, making Jerusalem the holy city to three monotheistic religions: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. After Christians in Jerusalem were intensely persecuted by the Seljuk Turks, a Central Asian empire with ambition to expand its territory, Christians in Europe launched several crusades to bring the holy city back to the hand of the Christians. During this time, many Jews were killed. Others were making pilgrimages everywhere, mostly in Western Europe. From the 16th century to World War I, the Holy Land, along with much of the Middle East, was ruled by the Ottoman Empire, an Islamic superpower. The land was unofficially called Palestine. At the same time in Europe, more and more Jews were joining a movement called Zionism, aiming to create a Jewish national state in its ancient homeland. Hence, in the first decade of the 20th century, tens of thousands of Jews moved from Europe back to the region. Israel and Palestine under the British rule. World War I exploded and ended with the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. Its land in the Middle East was carved by the British and French empires. The British then gave more independence for Iraq and Jordan, and the region remaining under the control of Britain was what it called the British Mandate for Palestine, where Britain promised to establish a Jewish national homeland under its Balfour Declaration, which went into effect in 1923. Tensions between the Jews and the Arabs who both claimed the land grew, which even led to acts of violence. By the 1930s, following the increasing Jewish population in Palestine due to the fear of persecution during the Nazi reign of Germany, the British limited Jewish immigration. In response, the Jewish militias formed to both fight the Arabs and resist the British rule. Then came the Holocaust during Nazi Germany, which claimed almost 6 million Jewish lives. After the war, more and more Jews then fled from Europe to Palestine to seek a homeland, escalating the tension with the Arabs. Overwhelmed by the situation, Britain began to withdraw from the region. After World War II, the UN proposed a plan to partition Palestine into two independent states, a Jewish state and an Arab state, with the city of Jerusalem becoming an international zone with a special status. However, the plan according to which the Jewish, accounting for only 1/3 of the population, was granted more territory, 56.5% of the land, was rejected by the Arabs. They began to form volunteer armies throughout Palestine. Less than 1 year after that, as Britain completed its withdrawal from Palestine, Israel declared itself an independent state, marking a new, bloodier chapter in the struggle between the Jews and the Palestinian Arabs. The 1948 Arab-Israeli War. Right after the announcement of an independent Israel, a war between the Arabs and the Jews broke out, which was known as the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. The war involved 5 recently independent Arab nations: Egypt, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon, the Arab League, who invaded the region in an attempt to establish a unified Arab Palestine. However, a ceasefire agreement was reached a year later in which more than two-thirds of historic Palestine, including the West Jerusalem, belonged to Israel, while Jordan occupied East Jerusalem and the area known as the West Bank, and Egypt occupied the Gaza Strip. As a result, more than 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from the land where they lived for centuries on the day that they call Al-Nakba, or the catastrophe. With the deteriorated disputes between the Jews and the Arabs, there came more wars and fighting in the following decades. The 60-Day War. It was in 1967 when the 60-Day War broke out after a volatile period of diplomatic friction and skirmishes between Israel and its neighboring Arab states, Jordan, Syria, and Egypt. This brief war ended with the victory of Israel, giving Israel control over the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. Sinai was later returned to Egypt under the Egypt-Israel peace treaty. After the war, most Palestinian refugees and their descendants were not allowed to return to their homes, but had to live in Gaza, the West Bank, and neighboring Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon.
Mukha pa namang matibay. Nagpapagali na po si Bebe at si Kuya magluto ng pansit canton.
Nag-oobo ang mga powder mo dahil.
Ay, ano, yung instruction nito kasi kayo tiktik. Mix the seasoning sauce in oil.
First,
Ano, bro? Ayan, no,
The First Intifada reports. The rising number of Israelis settling in Palestinian territory, West Bank and Gaza, gave rise to the PLO, the Palestinian found in Egypt in 1964 to create a liberated Palestine. The PLO launched attacks on Israel from its base in Jordan. It was then forced to move from Jordan to Lebanon, starting to carry out acts of terrorism against Israel. Fighting went on for years, including the Israeli invasion of Lebanon to kick the PLO out of Beirut. The PLO eventually agreed to divide the land between Palestine and Israel, but there were still more and more Jewish settlers moved into the Israel-occupied Palestinian territories. In 1987, a violent Palestinian uprising was ignited, starting from the Jabalia refugee camp after an Israeli Defense Forces collided with two Palestinian civilian vans, killing 4 of them. This was known as the First Intifada. This bloody conflict, resulting in hundreds of deaths, triggered a peace process with the signing of the Oslo Accords by Israel and the PLO, the Oslo I Accord signed in Washington, D.C., and the Oslo II Accord in Taba, Egypt. According to the Oslo Accords, the West Bank was divided into 3 areas. Area A was exclusively controlled by the Palestinians. Area B was controlled by both the Palestinians and Israel. Area C was fully controlled by Israel. The Second Intifada. Though further peace talks continued in 2000, the Israelis and Palestinians could not reach agreements on issues like the status of Jerusalem, rights of refugees, and the increased Jewish settlement in Palestinian lands. Ariel Sharon, a Jewish Israeli who would later become Israel's prime minister, visited the Temple Mount, home to the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. The action was deemed offensive by many Palestinians, and the Second Intifada broke out. The violence ended with Israel's withdrawal from Gaza, but continued to settle in the West Bank. Israel conflict with Hamas. Hamas is a Sunni Islamist militant group aiming to destroy the state of Israel.
ayos ulit. Bilis mo ko itrayin.